Because of the time, he must have been busy or something. Okay, great. Parashat miketz. Let's start the Aliyah-wise summary. Everybody can see on their screen. Those who want to see, you can follow me just verbally. That is also okay. Audio is also good. I'll be doing some reading here. Okay. Yosef has been in prison for 12 years. Pharaoh has two dreams and demands their interpretation, but no one of his court can interpret. The wine steward remembers Yosef and his ability for dream interpretation, and Yosef is rushed into Pharaoh's presence. Yosef interprets Pharaoh's dream that God will be sending 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. He advises him how to best administrate the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine. It should be Pharaoh's dreams rather. So the S is missing both places. Yosef interprets Pharaoh's dreams. Recognizing Yosef to be gifted with God's spirit, Pharaoh appoints him viceroy over Egypt and puts into effect the plan he has outlined. He marries Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, and has two sons, Menashe and Ephraim. The 7 years of famine begin, and the only food available is in Egypt. His brothers come to Egypt to procure grain, and Yosef, unrecognized by his brothers, accuses them of treachery and imprisons them for 3 days. Yosef demands that Binyamin be brought to Egypt and keeps Shimon as hostage. The brothers relate their adventure to Yosef, who refuses to send Binyamin. The increasing famine forces Yaakov to concede to Yehuda's guarantee that Binyamin will be safe, and the brothers return to Egypt. The brothers are reunited with Shimon and are invited to eat at the table of Yosef. All appears to be forgiven, and Yosef sees Binyamin for the first time after being sold as a slave. Yosef plants his silver goblet in Binyamin's saddlebag, forcing the brothers to return to Egypt, and punishes Binyamin to be his slave for his crime. So this is a short synopsis of Parashat Miketz. Parashat Miketz is really quite lengthy, but it is one of the most interesting parashiyot because it is a story. It is a story of Yosef's life. It is a story of how the brothers come back, how all these things are related in quite a bit of detail, and the language is very engrossing and interesting. So the parasha is very, very interesting. What I would like to focus on is the aspect of Joseph's dream. We have seen in earlier parasha that Joseph saw two dreams. The first one where his brothers' sheaves bowed down to him. The second one where sun, moon, and 11 stars bow down to him. Then we have the cupbearer, the wine butler, who dreams a dream which Joseph interprets. There he dreams that there are three clusters of grapes, and he is directly, pressing those grapes into the Pharaoh's cup. wine goblet, and he is told by Yosef that in 3 days he will be reinstated in his position, while the baker, who sees that he has 3 baskets on his head and birds are eating from the bread on top of his basket, is told that he will be hanged and birds will eat from his corpse. So again, you see Yosef interpreting these dreams. And finally, now in our parasha today, we have Pharaoh dreaming the 2 dreams and Yosef interpreting them. So let us look at this and just try to analyze what is happening, what is the significance of dreams, and how is it that the Torah wants us to understand this. Okay? There are a lot of very many interesting things that the Torah is referring to over here, but I decided on this dream interpretation. So let us see. Next year we will have more time to look at other things. After 2 years' time, Pharaoh dreamt that he was standing by the Nile. 2 years' time is from when the butler, the wine butler, was taken by Pharaoh back into his job from the jail, right? So another 2 years pass. So the last line of last week's parasha was that the butler forgot to mention Yosef. He didn't remember of the fact that Yosef had asked him to mention about his innocence. So he totally forgets that. Now 2 years pass and Pharaoh dreamt that he was standing by the Nile. Well, out of the Nile there came up 7 cows, handsome and sturdy, and they grazed in the reed grass. But presently 7 other cows came up from the Nile, close behind them, ugly and gaunt, and stood beside the cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, gaunt cows ate up the 7 handsome, sturdy cows, and Pharaoh awoke. He fell asleep and dreamt a second time. 7 years of grain, solid and healthy, grew on a single stalk. But close behind them sprouted 7 years, thin and scorched by east wind. And the thin years swallowed up the 7 solid and full years. Then Pharaoh awoke. It was a dream. Next morning, his spirit was agitated, and he sent for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dreams, but none could interpret them for Pharaoh. Now, very interestingly, those who study Egypt culture, Egyptologists who do their archaeological digs and everything, they have found in the writings of Egyptians that in the court there was a position in Egypt for a dream interpreter. Isn't that interesting? So we have Pharaoh with a dream interpreter who doesn't know how to interpret this dream, because Pharaoh's had a dream interpreter that is proved by archaeologists now. The chief cupbearer then spoke up and said to Pharaoh, I must make mention today of my offenses. Once Pharaoh was angry with his servant and placed me in custody in the house of the chief steward, together with the chief baker. Now here he's saying house of the chief steward. Really it is the jail of the chief steward. The chief steward was the guy who Pharaoh, who had purchased Joseph, and because of his wife's false claims, had Joseph imprisoned over there. So it is not a house, but over here it is said Bet Sarhatabachim, but it is the jail of the Sarhatabachim, together with the chief baker, Sarha Ophim. We had dreams the same night, he and I. Each of us dreamt with a meaning of its own. A Hebrew youth was there with us, a servant of the chief steward, and when we told him our dreams, he interpreted them for us, telling us each of the meanings of his dream. And as he interpreted for us, so it came to pass. I was restored to my post, and the other was impaled. It has not changed. Now it is. Thereupon, Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was rushed from the dungeon. He had his hair cut and changed his clothes, and he appeared before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, but no one can interpret it. How I have heard it, now I have heard it said of you that for you to hear a dream is to tell its meaning. Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, Not I. God will see to Pharaoh's welfare. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, In my dream I was standing on the bank of the Nile, when out of the Nile came up 7 sturdy and well formed cows and grazed in the reed grass. Presently there followed them 7 other cows, scrawny, ill formed, and emaciated. Never had I seen their likes for ugliness in all of the land of Egypt. And 7 lean and ugly cows ate up the first 7 cows, the sturdy ones. But when they had consumed them, one could not tell that they had consumed them, for they looked just as bad as before. And I awoke. In my other dream, I saw 7 years of grain, full and healthy, growing on a single stalk. But right behind them sprouted 7 years, shriveled thin and scorched by the east wind. And the thin years swallowed the 7 healthy years. I have told my magicians, but none has an explanation for me. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dream are one and the same. God has told Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 healthy cows are 7 years, and the 7 healthy years are 7 years. It is the same dream. The 7 lean and ugly cows that followed are 7 years, as are also the 7 empty years scorched by the east wind. They are the 7 years of famine. It is just as I have told Pharaoh. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. Immediately ahead are 7 years of great abundance in the land of Egypt. After them will come 7 years of famine, and all the abundance in the land of Egypt will be forgotten, as the land is ravaged by famine. No trace of the abundance will be left in the land because the famine thereafter, or it will be very severe. As for Pharaoh having had the same dream twice, it means that the matter has been determined by God and that God will soon carry it out. Accordingly, let Pharaoh find a man of discernment and wisdom and set him over the land of Egypt. And let Pharaoh take steps to appoint overseers over the land and organize the land of Egypt in the 7 years of plenty. Let all the food of these good years that are coming be gathered, and let the grain be collected under Pharaoh's authority as food to be stored in the cities. Let the food be a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine which will come upon the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish in the famine. The plan pleased Pharaoh and all his courtiers. And Pharaoh said to his courtiers, Could we find another like him, a man in whom is the Spirit of God? So Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since God has made all this known to you, there is none so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my court, and by your command shall all my people be directed. Only with respect to the throne shall I be superior to you. Pharaoh further said to Joseph, See, I put you in charge of all the land of Egypt. The removing his signet ring from his hand, Pharaoh put it on Joseph's hand, and he had him dressed in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain about his neck. He had him ride in the chariot of his second in command, and they cried before him, Abrek. Thus he placed him over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, yet without you no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh then gave Joseph the name Safnath Paneah, and he gave him for a wife Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. Thus Joseph emerged in charge of the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Leaving Pharaoh's presence, Joseph traveled through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 years of plenty, the land produced in abundance. And he gathered all the grain of the 7 years that the land of Egypt was enjoying and stored the grain in the cities he had put in each city the grain of the fields around it. So Joseph collected produce in very large quantity, like the sands of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Before the years of famine came, Joseph became the father of 2 sons, whom Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. Joseph named the firstborn Menashe, meaning God has made me forget completely my hardship and my parental home. And the second he named Ephraim, meaning God has made me fertile in the land of my affliction. The 7 years of abundance that the land of Egypt enjoyed came to an end, and the 7 years of famine set in. Just as Joseph had foretold, there was famine in all lands, but throughout the land of Egypt there was bread. So this is the story of Joseph and his ability to interpret dreams, because of which he became the viceroy of Egypt. Now let us open up for a little bit of a discussion, sort of, and try to understand what is the significance of dream according to the Torah. As far as we have discussed just now, what do you think dreams are doing? How do dreams work? What is the role of the dream? And try to understand why is it that the Torah is sharing this information with us. And no doubt the Torah wants to tell us about the story of the Jewish people, right? So how is it that after Abraham, Isaac, Yaakov, we have Yosef, who comes and plays an important role? But a little deeper than that, what is the Torah wanting to teach us? Okay. So let us open up for a discussion and see if we can come to some conclusions as to what the Torah is trying to reveal to us.
Friends, you can feel free to unmute yourselves. Benjamin uncle ni पण आपल्याला join केलंय, so you can all discuss and answer what Rabbi is asking. Thank you.
Dreams is a form of communication.
Please stick to the material, right? We have a lot of things ahead, so please stick to the material. We can discuss. We don't want to go into tangents. Yes. What were you saying?
Dreams are a form of communication from the divine to humans. It can be.
Okay. Anything more you want to add?
Yeah, they can be warnings, because when we pray to God, we always ask for like help from God. So that it can be the answer can be in the form of dreams.
Okay. Any more ideas? I hope everybody dreams over here, right? In this group. So this is not something from Mars that I'm asking, right? Dreams. What is your take on dreams? That is really what I am asking. What do you think is the significance of dreams, and what do you think that the Torah is trying to tell us from these stories, right? So as we just mentioned, dreams can be a method through which Hashem is communicating to us, and maybe he can send us warnings or whatever, right?
Right. And I think you get only those kinds of dreams that are there that play in your mind through the day while you are awake, and it's in your subconscious mind. So you get dreams relevant to your life, is what I feel. You don't get something out of the blue which is not at all ever thought of. It is usually relevant to your mind and whatever you are thinking of during the
That is,
day.
you're talking in our times, we get dreams which are relevant to our mind. You also mentioned the subconscious. What was the subconscious role?
Something that you might not very actively think of. I mean, you're right. I'm talking about today's, in my context, from my point of view.
I know. Yeah. I recognize that. Yes.
It is not so. It is not so. माझ्या हिशोबाने एक
No, one second,
पराठामध्ये
uncle, one second. Let me just ask Nisim to Nisim. The reason I commented on it is because obviously in the story, right, the Torah is wanting to say that Pharaoh was not thinking about famines. Pharaoh was not thinking about abundance. Pharaoh was a ruler, and he is getting a certain message, right? So maybe in Pharaoh's times you were getting these prophetic kind of dreams, but today it doesn't happen. That's what I was just trying to, but maybe that is not the case. Prophetic dreams, let's say, are rare. Okay. But that's why I made the comment. But otherwise, you are saying that dreams are a reflection of your subconscious. There may be things which are not consciously aware that your subconscious is bringing up when you are sleeping. Is that correct?
Yes, that is what I was adding. But I also agree with what you are saying. But yeah, that is just my take.
Good. I think it is a very important point. Yeah, Benjamin uncle, please. Go
हा
ahead.
आपल्या एका पराशामध्ये काय लिहिलेलं आहे मिरियाम तिथे लिहिलंय की योशुआ मॅरिड द खुशी गर्ल असं त्यांनी लिहिलंय. तिथं त्यांनी छान लिहिलंय. तिथे त्यांनी लिहिलंय काय काय डोंट थिंक दॅट ओनली आय लव्ह द ज्यूज ऑफ द बेन इजरायल. All the people those who loves me, I come to their dreams and tell them what will happen. तिथं लिहिलंय त्यांनी. म्हणजे नाही का फक्त बेन कोण पण माणसाचे त्याला देवाला चाहतात काय त्यांना तो देव स्वप्नामध्ये येऊन बोलतोय की त्याला काय होणार आहे. कसा लिहिलंय बघा. तो का बोलतोय मी ज्याला चाहते त्या सांगते मी बात करतो. You know the parashat that?
No, I don't know, but
No, you know that Miriam said what God loves the Moshe, that he married a Cushi girl.
Right. Moshe, you said Joshua, so I was a little confused.
No, Joshua
right.
Moshe.
So when Moshe marries a Cushi girl, that's when
तिकडे तो बोलतोय तर देव त्याला देव चिडते तिच्यावरती. तिला बोलते मी तर मोशेला एवढा चाहते की मी त्यासाठी बात करतोय काय. पण जो कोण मला चाहतय त्याच्या मी स्वप्नामध्ये येऊन बोलतोय की तुझ्या पुढे काय होणार आहे ते. आणि तेच तो बोलतोय इकडं काय काय तो फारो मला चाहतय म्हणून मी त्याला सांगतोय की पुढे काय होणार आहे.
राईट.
दॅट इज द ड्रीम्स आहे. आता पण ज्या माणसाला ड्रीम्स येते त्याला समजल तर त्याला समजा खरोखरच आपला जो ड्रीम आलेला आहे त्याचा काहीतरी अर्थ आहे. इट इज नॉट ओके. थँक्स.
No, you can add, please. Yeah, I agree with you. I am just going to try and see if I can place the story when this happened in. I know it is in parashat Numbers, in parashat Bamidbar, when Miriam was punished. Let me see if I can. I'm just going to give it another minute. If I cannot find it, then But it is in the same parasha of Korach. If I remember right, it was in the same parasha of Korach. But let me see.
No, it is not Korach. पाचवी पुस्तकामध्ये आहे मला वाटते.
पाचव्या पुस्तकामध्ये त्याचं रिपिटेशन असेल ना. पाचव्या पुस्तक तर मोशे रब्बीने लिहिलेलं आहे. तर म्हणजे अगोदरच्या पुस्तकामध्ये पण असेल.
चौथी पुस्तक, पाचवी नंतर मग चौथी, तिसरी पुस्तकात नाही.
नाही बमिदबारीत चौथा पुस्तक आहे. ओके, एनिवे.
That time the will come, they will see. The time when we read comes.
Right.
1 year, but that time will come.
Give me another 30 seconds. If it is here, we will get jackpot. No. Didn't find it.
Very good. तो परसा मला तो तिकडे मी मला तो सेक्शन मला आवडलेला आहे.
देवाला विचार, मिरियामला परमेश्वराने हे केलं तर कोणता पारशा आहे? पनिश केला तो.
मिरियम बोलते काय देव मा कदच बरको आहे वे मोशे खतेनी मा कुशी ग. इकडे पण त्यांनी दाखवलं पण इकडे पण त्यांनी दाखवा. इथं बी समजायची बात आहे. इथं पण मोशे दुसऱ्या बाईकडे गेलाय हे आहे. इतर राबाने मला बोलू दे की ते लोक सिपोराची बात करतात. सिपोरा इज गॉन. सिपोरा पुढे आले.
Let us not take a detour. Let us just
yes, I'm not going. I don't want to discuss about that. मला पण डिस्कस नाही करायचं आहे ते.
मला शोधून द्यायला सांग, त्याला मिळालं तर आम्ही बघूया. ओके, बट I will just make a comment because I remember what is there. Okay, any more comments before we go on? If we are just waiting for another 10 minutes for the comments, I'll just keep on looking. So I'm not looking at the screen, but I am with you all. Please. Any more comments about dreams?
आणखीन कॉमेंट्स म्हणजे दोनदा ड्रीम्स आलं तर समजायचं का तो ड्रीम्स खरखोर होणारच आहे.
ओके, व्हेरी नाईस.
आणि दोनदा आलं जसं का योसेफला दोनदा स्वप्न पडलंय, फारोला दोनदा स्वप्न पडलंय. इकडे बी दोन माणसं आहेत. फारोचा ह्या दोन माणसं आहेत.
येस. Anybody else? No input? What is your take on dreams? Forget parashat. Forget the parashat miketz. What is your take on dreams? What are dreams for? Why do dreams happen? Let us ask a general question and then go into the particular.
Hello? Can I talk?
Listening. Please. We are.
I think these dreams, which was God sent the dreams so that Joseph could interpret them to the Pharaoh, and the dreams would come true, and Joseph would get a higher position in the Pharaoh's land. He would be administrating and managing the affairs of the state. So that would, and this dreams and this famine was manipulated so that the family of Joseph would come and they would get together. They would be united, and also it would show the Pharaoh the power of the Jewish God, that he can make a famine, and he can, years of plenty and years of famine is all manipulated by the Jewish God. He has the power to do all this. And
fantastic. That is the role of the story. That the story is trying to somehow get Joseph into a state of power in Egypt, where even Pharaoh can recognize his gifts. As we said, that Pharaoh recognizes him as having the spirit of God, right?
Yes.
And then reuniting Jacob's family. Fantastic. That is the role. But that is the main story. That is, every 5-year-old, 10-year-old will read the story, will understand this, right? But the story is going a little deeper to tell us the role of dreams. And as we just now mentioned, the role of dreams could be one, that God wants to inform people of his plans, or as Nissim said, it is just your unconscious, subconscious that is playing itself out, right? In addition to all that discussion, do you have anything else that you will be able to add? Anybody else? Yes, I want you all to put your thinking hat on and recognize what is this, because the mystery of the dream is the mystery of human consciousness. So let's put a little more effort into finding out what is this whole aspect of dreaming.
Joshua, this is Jeremiah.
Yes, Jerry, come on.
Okay.
Please.
Many a times dreams don't have any message for us. They are just something that is like at the back of your mind or something, and it is. But in this case, because the dream was repeated or something, a bigger focus was sent, and then but most of the time you can't depend on dreams. In this case, there was some implied degree of prophecy, but we can't base our lives on dreams anymore. I don't think that should be the message.
Okay. So my son said that it is in Bahalotcha somewhere. Yes, Bahalotcha, chapter 12. And I'll just read it out, what Benjamin uncle mentioned. When they were in Hatzeroth, Miriam and Aharon spoke against Moshe because of the Cushite woman he had married. He married a Cushite woman. So the Torah is telling us Moshe married a woman who was a Cushite, and Miriam and Aaron spoke against him. They said, has the Lord spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us as well? The Lord heard it. Now Moses was a very humble man, so that more so than any other man on earth. Suddenly the Lord called to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, come out, you three, to the tent of meeting. So the three of them went out. The Lord came down in a pillar of cloud, stopped at the entrance of the tent, and called out, Aaron and Miriam. The two of them came forward, and he said, hear these my words. When a prophet of the Lord arises among you, I make myself known to him in a vision. I speak with him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is trusted throughout my household. With him I speak mouth to mouth, plainly and not in riddles, and he beholds the likeness of the Lord. How then did you shrink not from speaking against my servant Moses? Still incensed with them, the Lord departed. Okay, so this is a mention that prophecy happens in visions and in dreams. And it happens to whom? When a prophet of the Lord arises among you, I make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. Okay. So uncle took it forward, and uncle said, everybody that God loves is given a message in a dream or in a vision. So we have to be very clear. Hashem is saying that prophets get a message in visions and dreams. Maybe others also get, but prophets get visions and dreams. But Moshe Rabbenu is different. Moshe Rabbenu speaks to me directly, not in visions and dreams. His level is different. Okay, so visions and dreams are again a vehicle for Hashem to interact with the prophets also. Okay, so that is our source for uncle's mention of that particular parasha in Behalotcha. Okay. So Jeremiah, you think that normally a dream is useless information happening, playing in our minds. It has no consequence at all, except sometimes, if I understand correctly, which never happens nowadays or happens very rarely nowadays. It may be something with information that is relevant to us. I hear you right?
Yeah,
busy.
this is what I want to say. Yes.
Okay. So let us see. You know what? Let us go into the parasha and see why is it that this dream could be interpreted by Yosef? Because nobody else on this planet could have interpreted this dream but Yosef. This dream was sent to Pharaoh, according to what I am going to show you, only for Yosef to interpret. As you mentioned rightly, it was a manipulation to bring to fruition certain aspects that God wants to. And we will see over here that how God manipulated Pharaoh and brought this dream into action. So let us, in the next 10 minutes, look at what was it in the dream that only Joseph could gather. Now, I am not saying that Joseph was consciously thinking about these things. The dream works on your subconscious. Similarly, the interpretation of the dream also comes from your subconscious. For example, when Yaakov saw the dream that there was a ladder, and we spoke about the dream in detail, we said that this was a dream which came with its interpretation. Yaakov Avinu woke up. He didn't need to go to somebody else to ask him, hey, I saw this dream. What could it mean? It meant what he saw. He saw the angels. He was not seeing symbols. He was seeing the reality as it is. That angels are there. He still needed to interpret that those angels, as we interpreted it, are channels of growth or channels of let us call it opportunities that come to him, that he will be able to raise himself, his character, and grow spiritually, and either grow or come down or whatever it may be. So that is his interpretation, but the dream was very clear. In Pharaoh's case, the dream was, as we would say, just another dream. It was he's just watching another movie in his mind, right? But the problem was not that Pharaoh didn't dream otherwise. He always dreamed. But the problem over here was that once he had the dreams, he woke up agitated. Once he was up, he recognized that there is something about this dream that disturbs him, right? And once that happened, then Pharaoh wanted it to be interpreted, because he recognized that this dream has something more than just, like Jeremiah says, the rumbling of your minds, right? When we even sit just like that, our mind is, if we have not trained ourselves, our mind is all the time, taking its own course of thinking, and it's doing its own thing, right? Similarly, in sleep, the mind is doing its own thing, right? Now, so let us look at why is it that Joseph alone, of all his courtiers, and we even mentioned that they are paid staff that Pharaoh pays, they could not even interpret this dream, because dream interpretation is really a science. If you go into India, there will be books. They will tell you that, like you just now you took a conclusion that if a dream comes to you twice, it is bound to happen. You made a conclusion over here because it was concluded by Yosef to Pharaoh. So you made that conclusion, that reading into it. Similarly, so many other things are there that different cultures have made these conclusions. We will come to that, but on the basis of those conclusions, those who were the astrologers, or those who were the dream interpreters, those who were the paid staff who were specialists in this thing, why were they failing? The reason they were failing is because of what we will see about this dream. This dream is a very unique thing that happened, and it just spoke to Yosef. You will see in a minute how Torah explains us this dream. So let us go into it and then come back and open the subject to a little more details. Okay, so let's look at this thing. Thereupon Pharaoh sent for Yosef, and he was rushed from the dungeon. He had his hair cut and changed his clothes, and he appeared before Pharaoh. I have selected just some pesukim that are relevant to our discussion. So this pasuk says that once Pharaoh was told by his cupbearer that there is this fellow sitting in the jail who knows how to interpret dreams, and he has interpreted them successfully for him and that other guy who was killed. Pharaoh sent for Yosef, and he was rushed from the dungeon. Now, what is a dungeon? A jail. In Hebrew, a jail is called Beth HaTzoar. And that is what it is called earlier throughout. When Potiphar sends him into the jail, it is called a Beth Soar. When he is in the jail, he is Beth Soar. All the time it is called Beth Soar. Suddenly over here, you will see in the Hebrew, it says, Vaishlach Paro Vaikra et Yosef. And Paro sent messengers and sent out for Yosef, Vairsu min Habor. And he was called off or rushed from the bore. What is a bore? Vaigalach vayachlef simlotav vayavo el Paro. What is a bore? A bore is a well or a hole. Yeah. Why is it that the Torah calls the jail a bore over here? Somehow the Torah is wanting to play on the pun of what the bore is. Yeah. What is the other immediate memory we have of a bore? Where Yosef was put in by his brothers. It was a hole. It was a bore with no water in it. It was a well with no water in it, right? That is a bore. So over here, the Torah brings our connectivity to two things. Here he is in a jail, but the Torah calls the jail a bore. For Yosef, he is still in the bore, right? And for us to make that connection, that for whatever reason, the Torah calls a jail the bore, that Yosef is as if being brought out from the well or the dungeon, the well without water. Now, from this point on, we will see that the Torah is giving us hints as to what happens in Yosef's unconscious or the subconscious, Yosef's subconscious. Because Yosef is picking out hints from what is happening to him. What happens? People come to him in the jail, pick him out, and then what happens? Thereupon, Pharaoh sent for Yosef, and he was rushed from the dungeon. He had his hair cut and changed his clothes. And he appeared before Pharaoh. So over here, the first thing that manifests that his status has changed is he takes a haircut and his clothes are changed. The clothes are again reminiscent of something that happened to him earlier. What happened to him earlier? Before he went into the bore, before he was sent into the well, what did the brothers do? And it is on the right. When Yosef came up to his brothers, they stripped off Yosef of his tunic. So Yosef was removed of his clothes, the ornamented tunic that he was wearing. So over here you will see it is a reverse of what had happened to him. He was put into the jail, he was removed from the jail or the bore, the dungeon or the hole. He was removed from that. There he was removed of his clothes before he was put in the hole. Here he is given a set of clothes, changes his set of clothes. Then what happens? Pharaoh sends for Yosef. That is one important aspect. Ishlach Paro. That is the Hebrew being used. In the earlier one, you will go, who had sent Yosef to the brothers? Yaakov Avinu, right? Vayomer Israel el Yosef. Yaakov is called Israel over here. Halo achecha ro'im b'Shem lakach eshalachacha alehem. I am sending you to them, right? The next time again, I will send you to them. Then vayomer lo lech na re'e et shalom achecha ve'et shalom hatzon ve'hevi'eni davar ve'ishilachehu. And so he sent him me'emek Hebron, from the valley of Hebron, ve'yavo Shechema, and he came to Shechem. So the next idea, what happened in Joseph's life was he was sent by his father. Here he is sent by the Pharaoh. He is called by the Pharaoh. It is opposite. So over there he was sent. Here he is called. But the word is the same in Hebrew. Then what does Pharaoh do? Vayomer Pharaoh el Yosef, Halom chalamti upoter et oto ani shamati. Halom chalamti, I have dreamt a dream and I have heard that you can interpret dreams. Over there, what had happened before that? Joseph's second dream. Joseph's second dream was sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing to him. So he comes and tells it to his father. What happens then? Vayachalom od chalom acher, vayachalom od chalom acher, vesaper oto le'echav, and he told him to his brother, vayomer hinne chalamti chalom. Same word over there, opposite, written in the, we are going reverse, right? So here it is chalamti chalom. You see in the purple over there, here is chalom chalamti. ועוד הנה השמש, הירח ו11 כוכבים משתחווים לי. The sun, moon, and 11 stars are bowing to me. So over here, the Torah, the way Torah is writing is what is being played in his subconscious. Yosef is recognizing, oh, halom halamti, this guy standing in front of me, the king, is saying that I dreamt a dream. And what happened if I go back one step earlier in my life? Halom halamti, before I was sent by Yaakov, I dreamt a dream. Then, who is it that is saying? That is also important. Over there, it was his father Yaakov. Over here, it is Pharaoh. The king is also a father figure. So over there, it was his father in person. Here, it is a father figure who is talking about dreams with him, right? So over there, Yaakov Avinu says, what he said to him is this dream that you have dreamt. So the reverse of that is positive. You tell me what I have a dream. So the father has dreamt the dream over here, like the Pharaoh has dreamt the dream over here. There the son had dreamt the dream. So it is a reverse sort of happening. But again, it is so Yosef is reading into this subconsciously. Then he tells us about the dream. The Pharaoh tells Yosef about the dream. What is he saying? Hinne. Min or when we come out of the Nile, came up 7 sturdy and well-formed cows and grazed in the reed grass. So the Hebrew words over there are very interesting. Parot briot basar ve yafot toar. Yafot toar is really used normally for human beings and only twice used, right, rather in Yafot Toar, Yafot Mar'eh is what Rachel is called. So once Yosef himself is called Yafat Mar'eh, that he was a very handsome fellow to look at. And the earlier one who is called Yafat Toar is his mother, Leah. So for him, when he says Yafat Toar, Torah is saying Yafat Toar, beauty is relating to his mother. When he is listening to this, there is a certain relationship. What goes back? Now, I went back to my father. Now he's taking me back a little earlier when my father met my mother. That's what he saw. He saw that my mother was beautiful and her sister, Leah, Rakot, and her Leah's eyes were weak. Eyes were weak is how the Torah describes Leah. While over here you come over to the dream of Pharaoh, you see the next line. Presently they followed them 7 other cows, scrawny, ill-formed and emaciated. What is the Hebrew for that? Galot, Raot, To'ar, Me'od, Rakot, Basar. Rakot Basar is like Rakot. Aita Leah Rakot. Ene Leah Haya Rakot. So Rakot goes for Leah. So Yosef can really immediately understand what is happening in the dream. If Yafot is Rachel and Rakot is Leah, right? Then who is gobbling up whom? The Rakot or the Leah family is gobbling up the Rachel family, which is what happened to him because they gobbled him up. He can relate with this. He is listening to this story and he is saying, this is talking about my family. What is this dream the Pharaoh has dreamt? It is about my family, right? This again, I'm saying this is not consciously that Joseph is doing. Joseph certainly says that this is God's interpretation, but how the interpretation is happening, the Torah is revealing to us. Okay, in his unconscious or subconscious, there is a certain pattern that is being formed by the story that is coming in front of him. He has not yet heard the whole story. So you have the cows. Then, okay, that is till where I have. But then let us see if I have more on this. I think I missed out one slide, but that doesn't matter. We will try to figure it out from here. Then what happens is Pharaoh's next level is, or rather it is in the slide itself. I was a little confused. Okay, sorry. So with the Rakot, presently there followed 7 other cows, scrawny, ill-formed and emaciated. Never had I seen the likes for the ugliness, right? And the 7 lean and ugly cows ate up 7 cows and sturdy ones. So now, over here in the Torah, if we go back, right? If Leah is Rakot and if Rachel is Yafat Toar, is beautiful, right? Then what happens in that story over there? Jacob loved Rachel. So he answered, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel, right? So 7 years, Yosef is willing to work for Rachel. Laban said, better that I give it to you than I will give it to somebody outsider. So Yaakov served 7 years for Rachel and they seem to be but a few days because of his love for her. So now 7 are what? The symbolism of 7 are years, is immediately because of the pattern that is happened in his subconscious. Joseph sees that 7 is the number of years that Yaakov served, right? And we know that in the end, Yaakov got duped and he had to serve 7 extra years. The first 7 years for his love seemed like a few days. So they were the 7 years of plenty. But the 7 later years were very, very burdensome for him, right? So they are the symbolism of 7 years of famine. The center point of the interpretation of Joseph's dream. Why was it that nobody else could figure it out? We look at the dream and we say, wow, Joseph, come on, this is so easy. But when you look at the dream, everybody else, nobody can figure out that the 7 stands for time. They are figuring it out for everything else but time. Once Joseph knows that this is time that has to be interpreted, that the 7 represents time, then the whole dream becomes a child's play for him, right? Why is it that Joseph is able to figure that out? Because he knows the relationship of the 7 with Yaakov Avinu's life. I will even go ahead one step. I will say that because Yaakov Avinu grew to the level of Yaakov Avinu, he became a pinnacle of how things happened in the world. He plugged himself into the celestial zones where the outcome of the world is interpreted. The reason that Yaakov Avinu was in blessed mode for 7 years, later on this planet, there were 7 years of plenty. Because Yaakov Avinu was tricked and had 7 years of hardship, the second time, it was that the earth was basically punished with 7 years of famine. Just because one Sadiq out there 100 years ago had to go through his hardship, the whole earth had to bear it. So there is some connectivity with that too. But that is a side point. Joseph is now interpreting this dream because he is seeing hints from the dream that take him directly to an area where he knows that 7 stands for time. Once he knows 7 stands for time, he comes back to his reality and recognizes that this is 7 years of plenty, this is 7 years of famine. Two times it is being sent. So this message, Hashem is wanting to be sure that Pharaoh recognizes that this thing is going to happen. And Joseph also knows that there is something happening because of his own dreams. He knows that at some point he is going to be, I don't know if he understood his dream when he was 17, right? Because what did he think? That the sheaves of his brothers, think about yourself, right? He has these magnanimous dreams of royalty and he goes into slavery. What will go over such a guy? What will happen to him? He says, what am I dreaming is all nonsense? Or he will look up to it, when is this going to happen? And if he has faith, he knows and he understands dream. He is saying, what was that dream? Hold on, I was thinking that my brothers are going to bow down to me, but my brothers didn't bow down to me. In fact, I am now in this prison over here, right? For 12 years he is thinking about what were my dreams doing, what was kind of a message from the dreams, right? Then he will interpret, he will say, see, my brothers are shepherds out there. What I was thinking of, why were they the sheaves bowing to my sheaf, sort of? There is something else happening over here. So as soon as he is standing in front of Pharaoh and he recognizes that, oh, there is going to be 7 years of plenty and there's going to be 7 years of famine, he knows his role already and he starts off with his role. Pharaoh didn't ask him for any advice, but you will see over here, Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dreams. As for Pharaoh, having had the same dream twice. I'm reading in the middle of the... Okay, this has not changed. Let's see if it will change, or I have to... Not changing. I don't know why. Not changing. Okay, doesn't matter. I'm just going to read it out, so for the lack of time. And if somebody is listening to me, Odaya or Auvia, need your help. And the thin years swallowed by 7 years. Okay, sorry. So Joseph tells Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dreams are one and the same. God has told Pharaoh what he is about to do. Right? Thank you. Disconnect झाला याच्यापासून लिंक गेली. आम्ही करतो ते लिंक नव्हता. I'll take care of that. Once we linked it. Thank you. So as soon as Joseph, okay, so you see the middle of the slide. As for Pharaoh, having had the same dream twice, it means that the matter has been determined by God and that God will soon carry it out. Accordingly, let Pharaoh find a man of discernment and wisdom and set him over the land of Egypt. And let Pharaoh take steps to appoint overseers over the land and organize. Who is asking for his advice? Pharaoh didn't ask for his advice, but Joseph already knows, because now he is interpreting his own dream. He knows that his role is not being a leader over his brothers and being chosen like the brothers interpreted to be like the owner of the birthright in his family. He recognizes immediately, oh, this is what I am meant for. The dream was about this, that I am supposed to be feeding my brothers. That is how they are going to bow down to me. Not that they are going to, there is some power game over here. As soon as he knows that, Joseph immediately gives advice. And he knows that his advice is what is going to allow Pharaoh to say, the plan pleased Pharaoh and all his courtiers. Line 2. And Pharaoh said to his courtiers, could we find another like him, a man in whom is Spirit of God? So Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has made all this known to you, there is none so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my court, and by your command shall all my people be directed. Only with respect to the throne shall I be superior to you. So there it is. So we see that this dream, and especially this dream, is a game played by Hakadosh Baruch Hu with Pharaoh to bring Joseph to power. The dream has pointers where Joseph's subconscious is going to pick and interpret. Nobody else can figure out at all that the cows or the sheaves stand for years of corn, stand for time. Nobody can, because it is only in Joseph's father's life that happened. And it takes back Joseph step by step by step, one step at a time, till from where he was put in the dungeon to where he was removed, and he recognizes that this is how it is working out subconsciously. He is able to interpret the dream. And that's why Joseph says that this is from God. And you will see that is another quality that is Joseph. And I believe that is why Joseph is called Joseph As-Sadiq. Why is Joseph called Joseph As-Sadiq? If we go and see the lines that I have put in red over here. Okay. Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, not I. God will see to Pharaoh's welfare. Right? Then next slide. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dreams are one and the same. God has told Pharaoh what he is about to do. Last line. It is just as I have told you, Pharaoh. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. Okay. Then over here I have not made it right, but Joseph, when he has his children, he says, God has made me completely forget my hardship and my parental home. This is the third line. When Manasseh is born and when Ephraim is born, God has made me fertile in the land of my affliction. Throughout, 1 second, okay. Throughout the story, whenever Joseph is interacting with somebody else, right, his role is bringing God into the picture. No doubt that he is interpreting dreams, but he doesn't take credit for it. He understands that he is just, although he is in a position of power, and although even in the jail he was raised to a position where he could control the others and look over the others. When he was a slave, he was made into an important head slave for others. He could see that everything, wherever he was, whatever was his position in life, that it is everything from Hakadosh Baruch Hu. And that is his banner. Wherever he goes with this flag, you know. It is Hashem, it is God who is running the world. And that is his understanding, very clear understanding. That comes from Yaakov Avinu and his understanding. In fact, we will see that Joseph's dreams are just an extension of Yaakov Avinu's dreams, because Yaakov Avinu dreamt the ladder. Joseph is just part of the ladder. Thinking about it, what is Joseph's dream? 12 sun, moon, and the stars bowing down to him. Right? How does a star, which is just a point of light, how does a star bow down? Can a star bow down to how do you see a star bowing down to you? Have you ever thought about it? How does a person see a star bowing down? The only way the star.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Listen.
I was saying it must be really a very creative graphic animation type of a visualization.
Where you see that 5-pointed star and then it goes down. And that is not what a star is. No, a star is a point in light.
Right.
How does a point in light bow down to Joseph?
Correct.
The only way
bowing
down. Bowing down really is Hishtachavaya. That something goes portrait. In India, it is called Sashtang Namaskar. You go down flat, which means that whatever is being bowed down to is standing erect and everything is below him. What Joseph is seeing in that dream, in the second dream, is that he is able to make himself into that ladder that had its head in the skies and that had his feet on earth, which was the dream of Yosef Avinu, which is the dream he is basically climbing on that ladder. He is on the top of that ladder where he is above the skies, and under him are all the sun, moon, and stars. Why is he above the ladder? Because now the angelic level, or the level of whatever spirit that Yosef has been raised to that level, because he is a tzaddik. That is why he is a tzaddik. That is why he is going with this banner there, because he understands that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in everything and plays out the role of whatever we said, that he manipulates the world. That manipulation can be seen clearly with Joseph's eyes. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is basically communicating with him. communicating using his subconscious, using his personal story. Nobody else has this story, but Yosef has this story. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is using his story to communicate with him. Now coming back to our story of what the dream and its interpretation. So was Yosef getting a prophetic message when he was interpreting? No, because Pharaoh was not a prophet. If according to what we just read in Baalotha, prophets get a message, Pharaoh was no prophet. How is he going to get a message? He is sent a dream. See, the dreams are not prophetic, but dreams have prophetic messages. Like when I say prophetic, I am using the word in a very loose way. Like, is astrology prophetic? No, astrology has no prophecy in it. Somebody uses some principles that he learns out of the patterns that are there, and he then calculates some results, right? Which may be correct. And so he is now foreseeing the future. Similarly, these dreams are just foreseeing the future without being prophetic. There is no element of, when Torah uses the word prophetic, nevuah, it has a very different level. The nevuah level of a prophet, wherein he gets visions and he gets dreams, is a level where he is touching the higher realms of reality. When a person is touching dreams, he is touching his own realms of reality. And that is the difference. Because we, as we watch ourselves, are on a, how do I explain this? Okay. We have heard about the subconscious. We are using it very, I mean, in our conversation, we use it subconscious, right? As if we just were very, very much in touch with our subconscious, like, yeah, sure, it was my subconscious. But it is a nonsense, because we are only in touch with our conscious. We don't even know that there is a subconscious. That is the fact, right? We are just using it because psychology uses it, because Jung used it, and because these guys, to explain stuff, they've constructed this word. But really, to be in touch with your subconscious, what does it mean? What does it mean? What is this area that is called the subconscious? Do we know? But the dream, this is the jumping board of Torah to tell you that there is a subconscious. The subconscious is the stories that are there in us, that are the background information, the stuff that the subconscious is not only a positive thing. Let's see a person who has what is that word? He has a very strong affinity for stealing. There is
kleptomaniac. Kleptomaniac, I think.
Kleptomaniac. Somebody who is born kleptomaniac, right? Or even we can say, forget it. We'll keep it at kleptomaniac. So, if this person is a Torah student, yeah, Talmid Chacham. He's a student of Chacham, right? He understands Torah. He recognizes that God doesn't want me to steal from others. It is forbidden. It is one of the 10 commandments. And he controls his kleptomancy. What happens? He is putting it in a pressure cooker, and he puts it, that particular drive that he has, which is instinctive. Let's say it is instinctive, or psychologically, or however it is working out. I don't want to get into that. But if it is there in his system, right, from wherever that may be the source, he is basically pushing it down. Where does it go? It goes into your subconscious. So on the subconscious level, your conscious level, you are aware. What happens when this person is sleepwalking, let us say? He also has another problem. He is sleepwalking. What are the chances that he will steal when he is sleepwalking? 99.9%. Why? because that's how humans are. If he doesn't understand the problem, he is just pushing it into his subconscious. His subconscious is going to be active at some point because his consciousness needs to take a break. And when I say consciousness, it is awareness. Then we are using two words with the same meaning, but they are two different things really. So when his awareness takes a break, when he is asleep, but he is prone to sleepwalking, there are very, very high chances that he can steal them, right? Or he may be, whenever he goes to sleep, he can start dreaming about stuff that he is stealing, because that is what his unconscious and subconscious will sort of vomit. that is what is happening when we are dreaming. That is exactly what is happening. We have so many things that we are pushing aside. We have drives, and we have, say, I am very, very fond of eating sugar, and suddenly I recognize, oh, sugar is very bad. It spikes your insulin. It can give you type 2 diabetes. You start reading about this and that. You start pushing down your trained capacity from the word go. When we started eating, we have been eating sugar and having sweetmeats and everything in India, and suddenly at age of 35, 40, you decide, oh, I am going to go down on my sugar. Where does that drive go? It goes into your subconscious. So you will be having parties in your dreams. So that is one aspect of dream that Jeremiah was talking about. Our subconscious, which we are not really in touch with, we just know that it is there, is that playground which doesn't want to let us go mad. So it basically vomits out these things that we need to play around, play with, or which we are attracted to, or which we are craving when we are restful. So the pressure on our system basically relaxes, right? That said, that is the regular level of dreams. Dreams are a way to release the tensions of being a conscious human being. A human being who takes decisions about what to do and what not to do, because as a whole, we are somehow we are not equanimous. We are not balanced. There are things in us that are imbalances, and we, on a social front or on a religious front, want to be equanimous. We want to be controlled and balanced. But that balance means that you have to push something into your subconscious. The subconscious needs to release that aspect, and the subconscious is going to bring it out. Okay. There is a whole other level which we will call unconscious. We are never, even in the dreams, aware of what that is. What is the unconscious levels that we have? Okay. The unconscious level is also very individual. The unconscious level is something I am not aware of, but is a part of me. It may have memories that maybe let us say, like in animals, right? If you have a baby mammal, it knows how to suckle the milk out of his mother. Though no mother needs to tell the child, the newborn, how to suckle from, except for maybe human babies. Human babies need to be taught. But still the human baby knows how to suck milk. It knows how to, it doesn't need, you take it close to the mother, it knows. Why? There is something in the unconscious which is very deep. If you give a small child food, it will take it in its hand and put it in its mouth. It doesn't put it in his nose. That is one level of the unconscious working with us. There are levels of information that are already programmed into us, so that we will be able to function. All the aspects of what we say, I'm forgetting my science over here, but for example, that the heart, involuntary actions, right? All the involuntary actions like breathing and the heartbeat, or so many things, like how the eye blinks when there is every so many seconds, or if some dust particle comes close to it, right? Or how we sneeze, or how we cough, are involuntary actions which have an inbuilt system which is there from the unconscious of a person. No consciousness, no subconsciousness controls it. There are so many other things also that may be in the unconscious. For example, in the Holocaust, people who were cluttered in the trains and everything, they had, and say, I mean, I don't want to say yes or no to rebirths, but there were people who were born after that generation, and they were claustrophobic. They couldn't walk into a elevator. Why? Just because they had an older memory from being cluttered into these gas chambers, right? So that is all in your unconscious, not the subconscious. That goes a little deeper. You still go deeper, then there is a communal consciousness. My brother Jeremiah, who is listening, in fact, told me this story, which is a fact. He was driving to Beersheba. A dog came in his way, and he severed his car at a speed, of very, very high speed of 100, 120 or something like that, and saved the dog, but put himself into very, very bad situation. His car got wrecked. He himself got injured, but did not, nothing very severe, fortunately, but he could have even killed himself because of this. The car severed out of the road into the desert around. Okay. Because that dog was saved, right? From that day, all dogs became his friends. They come and no dog barks at him, and all dogs basically come very lovingly to him. There is something that happened on a very unconscious level, that the dog unconscious recognized this guy to be their savior. No, nobody will believe this, but it is my brother with whom it happened, and you can ask him. He is on the class here, right? Where does this happen? This happens on a communal consciousness, not even in the unconscious. There is a communal consciousness, which maybe there is one level of communal human consciousness, and then there may be a communal consciousness of all the living creatures, and then there is the communal consciousness of all the inanimate objects also. How do we know that? You know, there is this, when we were in science, we were learning about the half-life period of a radioactive isotope, right? I'm totally not connected with science a lot many years, so I don't know if there are some new theories about this. But then what used to happen is those atoms used to give out energy, electrons, and after a certain period become a lower, lower atom. So they used to change from half-life. It is called the half-life of the isotope or something. Now, the funny part was, there are so many atoms. How is it that the atoms knew which ones were giving out the electrons? Why wasn't it that at some point more electrons were given out? Because if there are 25 of them who are giving out electrons, not all of them need to give out electrons, but somebody is giving and somebody is not giving. But there is some kind of a communication between them to know that exactly this amount is being given at this period in time, and they have to meet that particular period of half-life, and only those numbers have to go down. So the atomic weight will be exactly the same. I hope I am able to explain this, but there is this, we'll call it a consciousness of the inanimate in us. So every cell and every molecule over here is also connected, right? But we are not aware of that. Okay, but everything is connected. Why am I telling you this? Dreams which are prophetic, right, come from a very higher source where everything is connected. Because everything is connected, there is a certain way that piece of information falls into, so it is coming through all these different levels to our conscious mind or to our dream, which is our subconscious mind. Many people think that just because they dreamt and that dream became a reality, that it is prophetic, right? I know I had a discussion with Benjamin Uncle about this also a few months ago. One such dream. So we have these experiences which are called deja vu experiences, right? Deja vu is something where the dream happens and then I am in that particular situation and I think that it happened, right? Now, there may be some dreams that may come and tell you some things that are very common, where people, as we are told, that people are informed about, given a warning through hints or whatever. So those dreams are coming really from your unconscious or your subconscious. Why? Because your unconscious, if you start walking a pattern, right, the pattern is known to your unconscious, is going to lead you to some point. So the unconscious wants to send you a hint. The subconscious wants to send you a hint. How do they work? They work with a certain patterns. The pattern is like this. If you are in India, and I have spoken about this quite a few times, but this is the most simple example. If a person dreams about an elephant in India, right? Everybody knows how to interpret an elephant in India. Why? Because elephant was a status symbol once upon a time, and the status was that of a king. So something royal, something grand, something important, something humongous, something big, something is what the symbolism stands for. So it is positive. Only the kings had elephants as their pets. So it is something which is royal and positive, right? But say somebody in Africa saw an elephant, yeah, in his dream. Now that, if they go to an African healer or whatever, whoever interprets their dreams, right, they are going to get a very negative information. Both of them have seen an elephant. One is in India, one is in Africa. Because in Africa, the elephant creates havoc. There is no domesticated elephant in Africa. African elephants are wild. They come on a spree to destroy towns. They are one of the wildest animals, and they are so huge and so big that human beings really can't do much about it. Right? It's like a whole bulldozer that comes into. So what is it representative of? It is representative of death and destruction, right? So same elephant is dreamed by an Indian in India will be interpreted differently. Why? Because his subconscious has a positive relationship with this symbol. Okay. While an African who dreams an elephant has a negative relationship with this symbol. So he is sending this symbol to tell you about some premonition, something negative that is going to happen. The Indian guy is, his subconscious is sending a positive symbol. So he's sending a elephant, right? All cultures, depending on where and what their relationship with things are, have such relationships with dream interpretation. This dream interpretation is purely on the subconscious level. So anybody can read a book about dream interpretation, understanding where the person is coming from, what is his background. You can interpret his dreams, positive or negatively. Okay. There is one more aspect that the Hachamim tell you about the dream, and that aspect is about the interpreter himself. Now, if somebody comes, my uncle, Malachi uncle, was an astrologer. He studied astrology, and so whenever we used to go to him, we used to say, "Amcha hat baga, amala sanga," right? Just because out of curiosity. So he used to say, "Arey, saga ekdam mast hai." Once I told him, so many people I see, we come to you, you never say anything that is you have something wrong or something, you're going to lose money or सगळ्यांचं चांगलं कसं होणार आहे? They were like, because I know that interpretations go according to the interpreter. So that is a principle in the Torah, that for Jews, whoever is interpreting, if he interprets something positively, it will work out positively, because he plays on the interpreter's mind as to how the outcome is going to be. That is the power we have over the subconscious. So even the subconscious has an inkling of something bad which is going to happen, but it has to be interpreted positively. Once it is interpreted positively, the person feels, oh really, I'm going to get this positive result. He will see to it. All his energies will work towards that positive. I believe in the book of Gideon, if I'm not mistaken, there is one such story that he was very depressed, and he could not believe that Hakadosh Baruch Hu is going to win him the war. So Hashem asked him to go into the camp. So he goes into the camp of the enemies. So the two guys are discussing their dreams. No, they are not prophets, right? They are discussing their subconscious dreams. We'll call them dreams from the subconscious. And in that dreams from the subconscious, one guy says that there is this chaff or some wheat, right, that fell on our tent, and the tent got overturned. So the other fellow interpreted his dream and said, "Oh, that means that the Jews are going to rout us." How did he interpret? Because the Jews were settlers, they were agriculturists, they were farmers. So the chaff represented the other guys were all nomads. They were living in tents. So the tents represent very simple, because the unconscious knows the tent means this guy, the chaff or the ear of corn means the Jew. And if that fell on the tent and the tent got overturned, that means the chaff is going to destroy them. Once he heard that interpretation, he was confident. Oh, now I know we will win. It was only because of his confidence, really, maybe he won. He took them and routed them. And only because they interpreted their dreams negatively, maybe they lost. They didn't even try to win the war, maybe. So we really don't know. The subconscious level of dreams are, although have a tool in them, but they are malleable. They can be changed according to who is interpreting them, how is it being interpreted. That is what the Torah teaches us. So you have to be very careful whenever you have some negative dream. Please interpret it positively. It will work positively because it is from the subconscious. It is malleable. So that is first principle. Second principle, like you said, if the dream comes twice or 10 times or 5 times, has nothing to do with anything, because if the unconscious wants to send you the message, it is wanting to send you the message. If you don't get it the first time, the second time, the third time. But if it is coming from the subconscious, then the subconscious is only able to see up to some point. It doesn't know the outcome. Okay. So the subconscious dreams are a hint. They should not be taken seriously. When even there is a dream which is giving you information, I'm saying. There are so many dreams that are not information, right? I was seeing and I was watching a movie in the sleep, in my dreams. Why? Because last night
Rabbi, sorry to interrupt, but we have a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm finishing.
How long will you take?
How many minutes I have? 10
we
minutes?
are beyond, so we can conclude in 5 minutes.
5-10 minutes, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Now I also need to light Hanukkah. So all those who would like to join me after this to light the Hanukkah are welcome to join. We will go down and light the Hanukkah as soon as we finish. But anyway, so let us just finish this aspect. So the first level is your subconscious. Your subconscious is malleable. it understands things according to whatever has been sent to it, and it understands only up to a limit, right? Because of which the information is malleable. If your soul, if your consciousness decides to work against it and that it will not happen, it will not happen. That much power we have. Even if you have 25 times you have dreamt the same dream, it will not happen. If you decide, it will not happen, because it is only on the subconscious level. The subconscious is sending you the information. If it is from a deeper level of consciousness, if it is coming from your unconscious, right? 99% you will be able to interpret the dream along with your seeing it. You won't, like Pharaoh, you won't get disturbed, because your unconscious is sending you the message along with some interpretive tools in it. You will be able to get an inkling that this is from a deeper level of the unconscious, and it has to be interpreted in a certain direction. Okay, you will already know the interpretation if it's coming from your unconscious. That is the good thing about those dreams. So when Joseph had his dream, or when Yaakov had his dreams, they were not prophetic information. They were dreams with a message that you are heading to this particular path in your life. This is what is. And it could be that Hakadosh Baruch Hu, not could be, it is that Hakadosh Baruch Hu has played it out. But because you have, even Yosef, as we know, as a child, must have had these magnanimous ideas, because our psychology is not very far from our soul, right? But how do we take it over there is the game plan for us. The final thing is prophetic dreams. Prophetic dreams comes to somebody who has reached beyond his consciousness, or beyond his unconscious, to recognize that his subconscious and his unconscious all are plugged into one single oneness. Once he is plugged into that one single oneness, he knows that the reality is one. And that's why he is being sent that particular message. Over there is no mistakenness of interpretation. The prophet understands the message very clearly. But I'll tell you the problem. The problem is every second guy who dreams a dream thinks that he is a prophet, right? You will see that in Africa, you will see that in Christian communities, you will see that all over America. They call them prophets, right? They are not prophets. They do get information from some level, but they are not prophets. Even in the Torah, where we had prophecy, we have so many times prophets who were in the name of God giving false prophecies. Prophecies, to be a prophet, you can never be sure, probably. That is how bad it is. Because even in those areas, if Hakadosh Baruch Hu decides to send information which is detrimental to you, right, he can play around with you, right? Because that's what happened in Jeremiah's time. He wanted to punish prophets who were not up to the mark, or whatever it may be, and he sent prophecies which were not true, so that he will punish Am Israel. Because otherwise Am Israel would have listened to Jeremiah. But because there were other competing prophets who were false prophets, but they were prophets. The Torah calls them prophets. And God lured them to be punished. So prophecy is again very, very delicate line of understanding. What the Torah basically wants us from this whole, as I understand it, from this whole understanding of what the human capacity is to try and reach into our inner depths, to recognize that something is subconscious, to recognize something is on the unconscious level, to recognize that something coming from a deeper state, which is a oneness. And maybe then we will reach their levels of prophecy. Okay. Torah not necessarily is using prophecy with this dream of Pharaoh. Not necessarily, it's for sure not prophecy, but it is using two methods. With Joseph, it is using information that Joseph could use in his life on his unconscious level and on his subconscious level, which was being sent to Pharaoh. That was the miracle of that particular unique dream interpretation, which normally never happens. But it could happen because HaKadosh Baruch Hu controls the world. Okay? So Chanukah Sameach, Tiskule Shanim Rabot, and let us, all those who would like to join me for lighting Chanukah, I hope it is ready. The time is up for me. If there are any questions.
Thank you, Rabbi. Excellent session.
एक प्रश्न है. Your brother Jerry.
Yes, sir.
हा. त्याच्यात तुम्ही एक्झाम्पल सांगितलं. He started now driving slowly.
I hope so.
No, that is the message. He was getting the message. The message
always,
is there
always.
for him.
You are always getting messages. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, he should drive all the time.
He is listening, and in fact, he is a full-time driver.
He is a full-time driver, but he should drive slowly now, consciously.
He does.
Yeah.
Thank you.
आणि दुसरी बात म्हणजे
even then he was driving very safely. It was the dog who came into the highway. It was not his fault.
But you said he was driving very fast.
So 120 is allowed in Israel, no?
नाही पण तरी पण 120 फास्ट झाली. दॅट गिव्स यू त्याला मेसेज आलेला आहे की डोंट गो फास्ट.
अलाउड आहे तेच नाही करायचं तर मग त्याची फॉल्ट कशी बोलू शकतो आपण.
त्याला मेसेज आलेला आहे. मेसेज आहे त्याला. इट इज मेसेज टू हिम. काय try to go slowly.
There is no question that there is a message there.
There is a message.
There is always a message.
Okay.
No doubt. Yeah, sure.
आणखी दुसरी बात म्हणजे ह्या ड्रीम्सच्या बाबतीमध्ये काय परमेश्वराने काय सांगते काय. परमेश्वर बोलते की ड्रीम्सचं मी सोडवतो. योसेफ बोलते ड्रीम्सचं परमेश्वर सोडवते. समज का नाही. आणि तो योसेफला सोडवायचा होता का फारोची माणसांना बी ड्रीम त्यांनी सोडवलेले आहेत. पण त्यांच्या कन्व्हिन्स होईत नाही फारोला की तो काय हे ड्रीम्स मध्ये काय बोलतात ते. काय फक्त योसेफच्या ड्रीम्स त्याला कन्व्हिन्स होते काय इट शुड बी लाईक दिस विल हॅपन करूशिनी. त्या फारोची माणसांनी ड्रीम्स नाही सोडलाय पण इट इज नॉट कन्व्हिन्सेबल ना आहे की तो. That is the thing. मला पण I should not take much time, but मला पण ड्रीम आलेला आहे when I was very young. तर नाही मला ड्रीम का आलाय काय मला मारतायत. इतका मारतायत काय मी एकदम खालच्या दर्ग्याला जाते ऋषीनी. आणि दॅट इज द ट्वाईस मला तो ड्रीम आलाय. दॅट इज द ड्रीम. 25 वर्षानंतर तो ड्रीम माझ्या खरोखर झालाय काय मी एकदम खालती पडलेले आहे आता. तर दॅट वॉज द ड्रीम. There are many types of dreams. When I will meet you next time, I will tell you. Okay.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach. Chag Urim Sameach.
Chag Urim Sameach. Yes. Any other questions, please?
Thank you.
And God bless everyone in there and give them everybody the good health and happiness.
Thank you, sir.
Same to you.
I am given the good health and happiness. I am living very nice. Thank you very much.
Shabbat Shalom in advance and Chanukah Sameach.
Shabbat
We are
Shalom.
not signing off. We are lighting Hanukkah.
Rabbi, I am leaving for the meeting, but I am not ending this meeting. I am leaving. This meeting can continue.
Sure.
So I must
any other questions? Before you leave, any other questions? Because I sort of curtailed the last few minutes. I just want everybody to be sure that the message was understood. Okay. No
yes,
questions.
Rabbi.
Okay.
Yes, Rabbi.
No, but if you got time, I